because low priority teams will wait for medium priority teams to move, medium priority teams will for high priority teams. There will always be teams listening to fall behind. It's very hard to catch up. However, if you're early enough and you get into a higher medium priority position in the second or third zone, you can constantly stay ahead in this position. So hopefully that shows you how important it is to ensure that you get into a higher or medium priority position early in the game. So far, those still 7 more to have completely different zone priority mechanics. Since zones 6, 7, and 8 are all target zones on that handy dead side map that we had earlier, well, that's a bit of now in this 6 zone rotation, you have lucky teams who are in the first teams to rotate in are unsurprisingly the teams who are in high priority positions, such as Akira and Skyjuff, who you'll probably remember from one of my previous videos. Una and Danvia mentioned and Kyber. You'll see that as the medium and lower priority teams end up rotating into the zone, very similar story to the first example that we talked about. A lot of congestion around the edge in the low priority areas, some congestion in the medium priority areas, so the teams can rotate a little bit deeper into the zone, high priority areas on the dead side and in the center of the zone. And this exact same cycle repeats for the next few partial zones. The thing that differentiates zones 6, 7, and 8 from the earlier zones is that the high priority zones Eight zones is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your location. I mean, look at the 6 zones in this game. The only setting and when the zone goes to the southeast, obviously Kevin set it in the zone. If you look at teams who's had a completely max distance goal, which is Kari and Kiras, they have 3 rotation goals on the dead side. Those go on top of it, whereas that to Akira and Skyjump ended up here in the low priority, and assume that the 7 zone goes max distance to them to the west. Before they could even rotate, almost the entire body would have to be first. Yourself in a low priority area in the 6th, 7th, or 8th zones or partial zones, you're just hoping that you're going to pull a good zone. However, if you put yourself in let's take a closer look at Cammy and second rotation this game. In the 5th zone, they were in a medium priority area, but obviously lucked out pulling the 6th zone. Since they're smart, they took advantage of this good RNG and used it as an opportunity to get themselves to the dead side of the zone and into a high priority position with rotated down to the south. Now, because these are partial zones, that means that this area here and this area here are what I'd call temporary zones. And a lot of players use this to their advantage by getting onto the dead side through this area that they know no players are going to be in. But as always, there's going to be a counter to every single strategy, and unsurprisingly, that's going to be zone priority. If you're one of the first people to rotate, like Cammy and Seti, they position themselves ahead of where these players would rotate into. This allows them to hold any players trying to rotate through this area, and you will block them from being able to get to the dead side and the high priority areas and force them into a low priority position. So now, they're the only team on this side of the zone, meaning wherever the zone goes, they have the most options for wherever they want to rotate. But zone priority isn't everything. In the first game that we looked at, Cammy and Seti were in a high priority zone and very quickly died afterwards. In this match, that we saw Mark and Nipsey repeatedly be in the low priority zones, it was actually their best game. You can still mess up a good position, or you can fight your way out of a bad position, or it's Fortnite, so RNG also goes in a factor. But building a strategy that revolves around being in medium or high priority areas will undoubtedly get you to end game consistently. If you not understood a single thing about this entire video, and you want the easiest takeaway that you can apply to every single tournament, just stay away from the very edge of the zone and try to rotate a little bit deeper into the safe circle than you probably are already.
We all deserve something special. Very special.
Playing to win a match with Fortnite is pretty simple. You land somewhere, loot, try to survive to the end while only hitting a couple of speculative one pumps along the way, and eventually win the final 1v1 to play the victory royale. But what if the lobby just wasn't fine? Well, that actually happened a lot in 2018, the first year of Fortnite tournament. Matches in the $10 million fall skirmish often had over 60 players left alive after a team simply which caused some pretty severe discernment. In these early days, Fortnite severe performances were seemed like Fortnite was optimized for this many actions happen all at once. However, there's only one player alive, every action they carry out is sent to the server and then sent back in a very oversimplified way. So say every build placed is one action. For every player alive, that action has to be sent back to their screens so that all players in the lobby see that single build in place at the same time. You also have to remember, each player alive isn't just standing there watching TikTok whilst everyone else goes to the game. They're placing builds, editing, and shooting themselves. So the more players alive, the more actions are being sent to the servers, and the more time the server has to replicate all of these actions to other players' screens. Now, a lot of these issues are cancelled out by render distance, where the player is more than 49 away, all of his actions are replicated on their screen. This ensures that early game, where all of the players are alive, is lacking pace, as most players are evenly spread out. But if a large number of players decide just not to fight, then eventually they'll all be forced into a small area, causing a ton of stress on the servers. Now, that's only problem one. You see this right here? That's what we call boring as gameplay. And here's the thing, even in 2018 Epic Games, this cactus, a simple, respectable plant, managed to completely ruin a season of FNCS. Its properties are simple. Hit it, and it grants 30 HP or shield, which allows you to save a couple minis or bigs, as you don't need to use them in the early game. Nice. Someone shoot you in the mid game, they plan to regenerate that shield. Nice. Actually, wait, no, this ain't nice. People are kind of taking this a bit too far. Now, in order to understand what's going on here and what is the massive problem, you have to understand how this went unnoticed for so long. Now, Chapter 5 Season 3 has had a lot of different competitive metas, all of which were not so good to put it nicely. Thankfully, it's also not in competitive playlists, so we didn't have to deal with that. But the first turns of the season were dominated by Nitro Fists, the ability to phase into any box, and the almost unkillable and unhittable whilst dealing insane damage. It's whilst allowing to deal only 100 structure damage when sprinting into a build, or 75 player damage when sprinting into a player. Is pretty much the entire season was just players running through every build, running into, firing you out your build, dealing tons of damage to you, and it was yet again, you may be able to guess this, not very competitive. The issue here is that Nitro took over a month of nerf. This is such an integral part of the season, which meant that both of the FNCS qualifiers were held in this meta for anyone who was anytime just run straight through your builds. Eventually though, the structure damage was nerfed from 300 to 90, thank God. People were happy and the meta was good. So after the FNCS qualifiers were over, there was a 3-week break until the semi-finals, and for the first 2 weeks of this break, Epic Games were on their summer holiday. Now this meant that there was a single week tournament with the gloves out and the Nitro nerfed before semi-finals. Basically just one dual cash got there to figure out what the new meta would be before the big tournament of semi-finals. Now because social media had been flooded with Nitro Fist complaints, Nitro Splash complaints, and ranked complaints because the meta is basically the first beta for GTA 6, this meant that the complaints about the Slurp Cactus were either not a priority to fix, or they actually just went completely unnoticed by the game. Now, if only a handsome, fun analyst would shone some light on the topic and highlighted how much of a problem this would be, maybe this happened already last chapter, and it should be over. Anyway, during the semi-finals, the biggest abusers of the cacti strategy were undoubtedly people who also 14 games used the Slurp Cacti 385 times, which is just under 30 hits per game. They wanted the Nitro and after looting and opportunity, they were to be triple cactus spawn to the top of the year. They built a true left place in the sky to the conclusion on all of the food exactly the thing. South of them was Ben and Pump, who were also sitting on a cactus, and to the north was Cease and Jack, who, you guessed it, were also sitting on a cactus. These three teams could all just trade damage back and forth with each other, and as long as they didn't get knocked, they could all go down. That's all. Let's pick up on this ball and break it down to yourself. Obviously, extremely beneficial from FGS when players who the range damage in the touchdown, so allowing them to essentially just pick it up. This level, but this is going to be so you need to speak with 4 and chest box. And now it's pretty much a requirement of one or two at this level of FCS. As the high damage single box is the most consistent way to get damage when you don't have many opportunities, and this will obviously help you not die to sponsor. However, some slurp plants spawn very close to each other. So in the case of Nada and Cooper, Infinite and Pump are so close to them that they don't even need both players carrying BMRs to hit shots, as they can just use an Enforcer, Combat AR, or even a pistol to rapid damage at this distance. So imagine you're a team landing to the north of the map. You're in a lobby that's stacked with Storm Surge, so the teams dealing the least damage will periodically get struck by Surge until they're dead, and you need the God Iron Boot to have 2 DMRs with scopes to hit any damage, and even if you decide to fight for your damage, every team to the south is safely trading Storm Surge and massively increasing the amount of damage that you need in order to survive the Storm Surge, meaning you almost definitely don't do enough by fighting alone. In 2 games of the EU semi-finals, players will get to deal over 1,500 damage out of 10 zone in order to stay above. That's 7.5 units on players that with 200 HP if you're just fighting and these are considered this big balance having a massive impact on the FCS semi-finals. Full semi-finals were all the prize monies and the qualification slots to the FCS Global Championship of the year, right things to do with the United. That's actually exactly what Epic Games did. They disabled the ability for it to respawn, which completely removed the ability to create damage with other players. This was the perfect change, which actually made the grand finals meta pretty decent. The problem was, this change was made the day before the battle. So teams would landed in the south to specific drop spots, applications, certain positions, timing for fires, and all the rest of it. Trucks trading being removed from Hotel all games also reduced from the average of 806. Their average damage dealt is being certain they win the event was costing their hands. But one man is another man loyal who won on any now complete lie to say this change is the second season one, first last season, the big the best in the region, and maybe even the best team in the world. But this change definitely gave them an edge. Since they landed Red Line Red, they're the only team who has access to the so because of the tank stars, they're now the only team in the lobby who can see their shields without having to use any of the shields in their inventory. Essentially, they can just still trade. Only the one was enough to make their entire game running at Red Line Rig and guaranteed FNCS based on the region with Eve's multiplicator stash saying, if we don't win, we are the worst players. And they didn't win, they placed fourth, but they are not the worst players. They're still okay. Across all 6 regions, 2 of them were won by rig teams, being NA and OCD. 2 was 4, being EU and Negus. You know, those teams that were teaming, so they count. And then both the Brazil and Asia teams who landed there did actually pretty badly. So the Cancras North definitely benefited from Red Line rig teams, but it would be a big stretch to take over Lifted and FNCS win, especially when you consider that Rebels and the top 4 uncontested. You pretty much have to just be one of the top 3 teams in the region. German speakers. Oversimplifying, the 2 main ways to get charged with damage is either by tagging or by fighting. Let's see who the second is notoriously scary to fight, and the heroes are being to speak for themselves. Leaderboard. Their main strategy was going for the forecast tower to the east, as this gives them the ability to see one zone ahead of them. Now, this advantage is massive, but another that a lot of people don't mention is the fact that when you knock a bot here, they are guaranteed to drop a purple DMR with a sniper scope, speed mag, and suppressor, which we've already established that a ton of other teams are really struggling to find. Let's see who's carrying it. Averaged 316 damage a game with it, accounting for 36% of his total damage throughout the entire Grand Finals. But this alone wouldn't be enough to keep them above the surge threshold. Their plan was pretty simple. In 50% of the games, they looted, went straight up to forecast, waited until it spawned, killed the bots, then came back to Reckless Railways as the other team rotated here to find the leftover heals. Here, they could just kind of fight them, or just tag them, annoy them, get more damage, and then play out the rest of their game. In the other 50% of the games, they'd loot as fast as possible, and then push out to one of the teams that was surrounding their drop spot, in what Vico calls a soft fight. They're not keying and fighting for elims, they don't really care about actually finishing the fight, and they're not over-committing as much to die and to waste a bunch of materials, but they're just trying to rotate to someone, get a bit of damage by sneaking up on them, and then running away, essentially. Then they'd run away to the forecast tower just before the bot spawn, grab them, and then go back to Reckless to get their damage. It should be noted that their forecast tower spawned in 11 of 4 days. This insane advantage. However, they don't go for it because throughout the entire season, Eco Flixie has repeatedly dominated any team that wants to grab it every single time. Funnily enough, in the one game their tower didn't spawn, they pushed to the spawn to the south, wiped Kovac off his tower, claiming it themselves. So their strategy was really solid. That's fighting from the market, and they got forfeit every game because of it, and they didn't lose a single mid-game fight. So did they crack this nerf actually make a difference to the top? Where Fnatic who got an NA dealt 38% less damage after the change, Eco and Blitzy only dealt 65% less, which makes sense if it's rather different damage in Grand Finals than it is in semis, and they won pretty much anyway. But by comparing that to the average strong force threshold, you see that the number is 7 out of 8 difficult to understand, so if you want to learn the ins and outs of Fortnite, and put this video on screen right now.
When data comes at you fast, come up with answers even faster. Satisfying.
According to the largest Fortnite tournaments, championship. No one was predicting they need to be 25 and over to qualify to the finals. And whilst I was at the event, I was